So this weekend I took the time to catch up on some of the films that I missed this year. And the two movies that I saw were Conjuring 2 and Ghostbusters. Now let's talk about Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters. Now Ghostbusters is a reboot of the beloved classic that I happen to own and love. Yeah, and I also reviewed this movie. Yeah, the review is on this channel. Check it out. This time around, it's an all-female cast, which apparently caused a lot of controversy. But yeah, the plot essentially is very similar. We have three scientists who work on paranormal activities and an MTA worker, and they team up to become the Ghostbusters and possibly stop the apocalypse. Now I can tell you, this movie has been a controversial issue throughout the entire year. When it was first announced that we would get a Ghostbusters with an all-female cast, some people just lost their shit. And, I mean, literally everyone. Apparently this movie became an icon for feminism, which is so goddamn stupid, okay? It doesn't matter, okay? I am not gonna address this fact because I find it absurdly stupid. The gender doesn't matter. What matters is if the movie is good. And is this movie the biggest piece of shit of the year? No, it absolutely isn't. But is this movie great? No, it absolutely isn't. I really wanted this movie to kick ass. Even though the trailers never convinced me or hooked me, I really wanted this movie to be good. Sadly, this movie is exactly what I feared it would be. This movie feels like a Paul Feig comedy with some Ghostbusters-ism in it. Yes, this is a cartoon version of Ghostbusters, which sucks. Because if you look at the original Ghostbusters, there were some actual creepy and eerie sequences, okay? It wasn't shot like a comedy. It didn't look visually like a comedy. The comedy was derived from the characters, from the dialogue. This time around we have fart jokes, Melissa McCarthy falling on the ground, and all the stuff that we know from Paul Feig, or Feig. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Also, the movie suffers from trying to reference the original as many times as possible. And most of the time, it just comes off as forced, and it really slows the pacing down a lot. And now let's take a look at our four leading women. First up, Kirsten Wiig. I thought she was actually more than functional for this movie. Yes, she tends to play the same character all over again, but I think she fit in this movie. She was smart, she was sort of the stiff one of the bunch, but to me she worked. Melissa McCarthy, oddly enough, I didn't see a character. I saw Melissa McCarthy all over again, which is interesting because this movie was sold as a Melissa McCarthy movie, and it sucks because you see her, you don't see a character. So she didn't work that well for me, but she didn't annoy me either. Yes, there is this one obligatory slapstick sequence, which got on my nerves, but all in all, she worked in this movie. Leslie Jones, holy shit, a living and talking caricature. Seriously, she's obnoxious, she's loud, and I don't know what they were thinking when they wrote this character. I don't think it's Leslie Jones' fault. I think it's the writing. The writing is the main problem of this film. But let's get right to it. Kate McKinney, I think that's her name, she plays Holtzman in the film. I love that character. I gotta tell you, out of all those new four Ghostbusters, she is actually the one that I adored. I didn't just like her, I loved her. I loved her even more than some of the original Ghostbusters in the original movie because she was quirky, she was so weird. And the interesting thing is there wasn't too much slapstick involved when it came to her character. She was a very unique, very creative character, and I was like, that's awesome. I understand that not every character can be like her, but had they been as creative with the other characters as they were with her, I think this movie would have been a lot better than it actually is, because she really stands out. And the cool thing is they make use of some very uniquely great ideas when it comes to the actual ghost busting. Yeah, there's a new technology which makes for some kick-ass action sequences, and that caught me off guard. I was pleasantly surprised with that, which actually makes for a more compelling climax than the original movie. Yes, I mean, the original movie is still 100 times better, but I do have to acknowledge that, and that saddens me even more because I can definitely tell that this movie had a lot of potential, but it really didn't utilize its full potential. And now let's talk about Chris Hemsworth. Holy shit, what were they thinking? What were they thinking? Yes, the idea to have a stupid secretary played by Chris Hemsworth, that idea is funny. But did they have to make him the biggest cartoon in the entire universe? Seriously. It got to a point where it just wasn't funny anymore. You're like, no human being on the face of this planet acts like this dude. And that's the thing, because if you look at the original Ghostbusters, it was more or less grounded in reality when it came to the characters. Yeah, there was supernatural stuff going on, but the characters themselves, they were more or less grounded in reality. You could argue that Rick Moranis' character was a little cartoony, but he is the most realistic character in the entire world when comparing him to Leslie Jones' character or Chris Hemsworth. Seriously, it was that bad. And the ghosts, I don't know why, but these ghosts reminded me of Luigi's Mansion. Have you ever played Luigi's Mansion on GameCube? That's exactly what they look like, and that saddens me because if you look, and again, I hate to compare this movie to the original, but it's inevitable. I mean, it absolutely is inevitable. It happens. I mean, last year, we've had Jurassic World, so naturally, I had to compare it to Jurassic Park. We've had The Force Awakens, so I naturally had to compare it to the Star Wars franchise. And we've had Mad Max Fury Road, so I had to compare it to the other installments of the Mad Max franchise. And the same happens here. Is it fair? I don't know. Probably not, but I can't turn it off. And I just have to say the original did a lot of stuff better than this one. And the villain. This one and Enchantress from Suicide Squad are definitely the weakest villains of 2016. I didn't like him one bit. He was so cartoony, so over the top, and he was just a villain for the sake of being a villain, and I'm sick and tired of these villains by now. So overall, this movie wasn't the biggest shitfest of the year. No, that prestigious award still goes to Independence Day Resurgence. I actually did find some enjoyment in it. There were some really clever ideas and there was a lot of potential. Not all of it was utilized. There was this wonderful Holtzman character. Again, I can't stress how much I loved her in this film. I almost want to see her own film. That's how much I enjoyed her. But there was just too much stuff that didn't work for me. The cameos were forced. The references were forced. The ghosts weren't really scary. Again, they looked like GameCube villains from Luigi's Mansion. And the overall tone, to me, was too cartoony. It hurts me to say that Ghostbusters is a time stealer. Now, am I a sexist for disliking this movie? No, I am not, because me disliking this movie has nothing to do with the fact that it's an all-female cast. I have no problem with an all-female cast whatsoever. It's just the writing and the tone of the movie that didn't do it for me. Last year, for example, Mad Max Fury Road, you could argue that Charlize Theron's character was actually the main character, and this movie happens to be my favorite Mad Max movie. Star Wars The Force Awakens had Rey as the main character. Female character, right? I love this movie. Having an all-female cast is neither positive nor negative. It doesn't matter. What matters are the characters, the plot, the tone, and does it live up to the original? In my opinion, it certainly doesn't. But that's just my opinion. So, Ghostbusters, the new one. What did you think about it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comment section below. And thank you guys, as always, for watching. And if you like what you see here and you want to see more, then just subscribe.